1942.
And we joined as soon as it opened, members.
My name is Rosalind Barbara Barreau Brenzel. And I've been a member of CBI since August of 1950. I was 4.5 years old when we moved to Millburn, and we immediately became members of CBI. So I'm probably one of the only 3 people who are still members who remember the old synagogue.
My name is Karen Tucker. My parents and I joined CBI the end of October, the beginning of November of 1968.
Hi, I'm Sandy Panzer, and my husband and I have been members of Congregation B'nai Israel for, well, we'll do the arithmetic in a few minutes. We joined in Elizabeth because we're from Congregation B'nai Israel, Elizabeth originally, which we joined in 1971 when our oldest child, Gail, was 8 years old. And we were members there until the spring of 92, when we had the good fortune of affiliating with Congregation B'nai Israel Millburn, and we've been here since then.
By that time, I guess we must have had a larger congregation in those next 2 years, 43, 44, which were World War II times. Our congregation grew to probably more than closer to 40 or 50 people. Everybody came to the bar mitzvah. We had a little Oneg Shabbat afterward. But the most important thing was we were a family, and I'm going to use that expression many times today. It was truly in the definition of a family. Everybody felt as if they were related to the other person. The Yiddish word is zusammen, together, great unity in how they felt, what they did, what they participated in, how they contributed, so that it was not the strangers or relatives coming to see me be a bar mitzvah. I was like their child, and I was one of the first bar mitzvahs to be there at the synagogue. And everybody was happy with me, proud of me. So that's what my bar mitzvah was like. My bar mitzvah was not my performance. It was just an event in the life of the congregation.
Robin Paulson, who was Sisterhood president and who put together a 23 female bat mitzvah class. That was in 2004. And that was when I started learning Hebrew. And Paula was my Hebrew teacher. She was a bunch of our Hebrew teacher. Our adult bar and bat mitzvah, a couple of the guys honed in on our fury in March of 2005. Huge event. It was done on a Saturday morning, put together a huge kiddush. There were a ton of people.
I was the 3rd girl to be bat mitzvahed on a Saturday. First was, I think Paula Donovetsky was the first, and Sarah Levin was the second, or they may have been reversed. I was the 3rd, and then Treasure Levin was after me. And after that, for many, many years, girls were not allowed. And my father had to be called for the Aliyah, but I could read for the Torah, and I could do the Maftir, and I could do the Haftarah. But I could not be called. Would have been 1958. Women were not allowed to have an Aliyah. Bat mitzvahs were done in groups on a Friday night. Boys all had their normal bar mitzvah.
Grunewald came. He was a brother-in-law to Rabbi Prince. Do you know of any? He says, yes, my brother-in-law is the chief rabbi in Mannheim, Germany. And he's trying to get out from the Nazis. He was looked at very cautiously by the Nazis as the representative of the Jewish community. And so he escaped from Germany with his wife and his son, Reuben. And his brother-in-law, Rabbi Prince, said, there's a synagogue that's available, a small little one, not like your big, huge one in Mannheim, which is almost like a cathedral with a huge congregation. And Rabbi Cornwell said, I would like that. It would be just fine. And so he came to our congregation. He spoke a fluent English with a very heavy German accent. I mean, very heavy. And he stood tall and strong and slowly speaking. And we looked at him like he was, I don't know, the chief rabbi from out of this world. And he was very knowledgeable. I mean, he knew Judaic, he knew inside out everything. And he was in touch with the international news communities. And every Friday night, in addition to his real wonderful teaching and a sermon, he would bring us some news from all around the world. Older men in the congregation, older, like 45 years old, they were very close with him. Very close with him. When I mean close, because he didn't have any money, he had no assets. He only got what we could pay him, and he didn't have a car. And so the few men in the congregation who could afford it got together, and my father and another man they bought him a car. Louis Silbersher, who had a meager living, very little assets, hardly any income. He was insulted that he wasn't asked, why didn't you let me contribute? No matter how small, I wanted to be a part of what I would get for our rabbi. You know how beautiful that was?
He was asked to come from the seminary for a year. And he was here for a year.
Right.
And while he was in the seminary, he became a rabbi to this shul here.
Okay.
Not a permanent.
Right. Because they had Rabbi Kiefer here.
So Rabbi Kiefer, so it was Rabbi Kiefer, then Rabbi Grunwald, then Rabbi Kiefer again, then Rabbi Grunwald.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think
So what happened is the ship turned around. So he was here and Milburn hired him. And then after the war, she and her son came over. And Rabbi Grunwald ran the temple. That Friday nights, after the sermon, after the synagogue, we had Onik Shabbat. And a lot of the young people were there, the children, asked questions. There were a lot of children who came. We had a choir. We had a children's choir. And we also went to Atlantic City for weekends. And sometimes we had Rabbi Heschel as our guest speaker there. And of course, our Gunnar and his wife. His wife made little out of cloth with spices for the Sabbath ending.
yeah.
And we had a lot of people going and doing. And we had, of course, Rabbi Bruno was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. So we had meetings in different homes. I don't remember how many. I think it was once a month. I'm not sure if it may have been twice a month. I don't remember. But my daughter studied with him after she came out of the yeshiva. She went to Elizabeth, to Rabbi Teitz's yeshiva until 6th grade. And then she studied with Rabbi Kuhn. And the temple was very active, very very good. I also remember somebody wanted to donate an organ to our synagogue during Rabbi Grunewald's time. And Rabbi Grunewald said, if the organ comes, I go. And it did not come. The services, as I told you at the beginning, the rabbi spoke, sometimes you get lost. Rabbi Grunewald was not a speaker who stayed on if you didn't listen solidly, you would not know what he said, and because he would go from one point to another, and it made it more interesting because it made it more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we would sit down and have something to eat, and then discuss the things. And Rabbi Grunewald was wonderful for the community.
Rabbi Grunewald was very special, and especially with my mother. When my mother was dying, and she was, well, when she first got sick, and then when she was dying, he would come and sit with her. And he would just sit there smoking his pipe. If she wanted to talk, she talked. If she didn't want to talk, he just sat there with her. And he was such a comfort to her. And it was a very special relationship. My father also had a special relationship with Rabbi Grunewald. As I said, I was invited to have my bat mitzvah on a Saturday when girls did not have a Saturday bat mitzvah. Rabbi Grunewald came back from retirement and, helped officiate at my first wedding. When my son was bar mitzvahed, we did not have a rabbi. It was in between rabbis, and Rabbi Grunewald came and officiated at my son's bar mitzvah.
Loved Rabbi Grunewald. I found him much warmer than a lot of other people did. I don't exactly know why that happened or how that happened, but we would sit and just talk about things for hours. He spoke very deliberately. He spoke very slowly. And if you asked him a question, he didn't just shoot an answer. He really thought about how he was going to answer something. And I learned a lot from him.
And we made a tour curtain that's now at the museum. The first one, I was part of it at what's the name of the right here on Greenwood Drive. They lived here, and the rabbi's wife, Mrs. Grunewald, and many of us were working on this first curtain.
What was it like working with Adolf Gottlieb on the curtain? Did he
He
participate
didn't
much?
He
No?
didn't participate. No, he gave us the design, and I don't remember who was in charge of actually Bamtis. Mr. Dr. Mr. Bamtis. They in their house.
That's where you sewed it?
That's where we did the sewing.
I do remember when the women were working on the curtain for the ark, and it was on the dining table at Mary Bamdis's house. And my mother took me there because I guess all the women took part in it, and I was allowed to do 1 or 2 stitches.
And Dave Fern was the first and only Jewish person to have a home in Short Hills.
It was interesting because that was the one time I came up with real anti-Semitism. I was very young, and it was I guess it was Rosh Hashanah. For some reason, I was in Taylor Park, and some kids from St. Rose called me a dirty Jew and beat me up. So, and then in junior high school, I was not involved in it. It was in a French class. It was not my class. It was the other class. and she blurted out, I guess the kids were acting up, and she blurted out, "It's always the Jews who started." Yeah. The other thing was, I mean, most of the time it was very benign. We were about 1/3 Jewish. South Mountain was predominantly Jewish. South Mountain's elementary school, my class, I think there were 2, maybe 3 non-Jewish kids. So we had our own little bubble until we went to the junior high school. And my brother, the girl behind us, in the house behind us, they belonged to the Rackets Club. And she invited my brother to go to a dance with her. And they had to submit the names of their dates. And she was told that she could not bring my brother because he was Jewish. And it wasn't until the Rackets Club burned down that then they realized, hey, we need that money from the Jewish people. And then allowed. The big influx was the late 40s and through the 50s. I mean, there was the big flood of people, Jews who moved from Newark. We moved from Newark. And so that whole Jewish group moved to, South Orange, Milburn.
When I was when I first started high school, I don't think a lot of people realized that I was Jewish. After all, Tucker is not anything, really. So I was dating someone from the shul at the time, of course, it's high school, and I got invited to a party in Poets, a neighborhood that we were not allowed to buy in. I was so excited. And I said, I got so-and-so invited me to this party, and I think it's so much fun. Maybe you'll go with me. And he said to me, first of all, did you notice I was not invited? Well, why would I notice that? Really, I was pretty new. How would I know? He said, you really should not go. And until he actually said it to my face, there won't be any other Jews there but you. Like, oh my God. I was shocked. So we didn't really know that there were such restrictions until that party. The Rackets Club, I wasn't even allowed to play at the Rackets Club.
What stands out about the Congregation of Israel for you? I gave you a hint of that in the very beginning, but the one word family. We were one. We were one. We're part of each other. And I can remember the names of all of these people. I know who they were, what they did, the husband's name, the wife's name. They were more than even neighbors. God, I wish I could. I told you this, Deborah, when you interviewed me originally. I wished I could give that feeling, and it rarely exists. And I've been in other fraternal orders, in a fraternity house, which was close to that, in a Masonic order. Lots of words, but not the kind of family we had at B'nai Israel. And I will tell you that a lot of that feeling continued. So that even into the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we were more than just people in the same club.
I think B'nai Israel has been a constant, good religious area where children feel comfortable and they have a school that has, even non-Jews have sent their children there. I think they've been active in many, many ways to really keep the Jewish things alive, which I'm very proud of.
They have. I mean,
We've had the old timers with the grogglers. They had these big grogglers, and you sit in front of them right there. But they were active, and I think that has not died. That has been ongoing.
mhm.
I'm very proud. It's an interesting life of a building of prayer.
Yeah.
I think in general they've done very, very well.
It was family. I mean, that was my second home. I mean, I spent a lot of time there. Got me through happy times, got me through sad times. You know, both my parents passed away. My first husband passed away, and the community was there for me.
We, for the most part, I feel, are a very Hamish, caring community. I hope that people don't feel that they are not welcome. We always try to make people feel welcome. I think that since we have really incorporated Pride Shabbat and Yaldenu and the little kids into the Saturday morning service and into the Friday night dinners, which have become amazing. It's really a lovely, warm place to be. And I really hope that people do feel that way. And to me, CBI is home.
And the reason we affiliated as a congregation rather than just dividing the proceeds is the committee that was in charge of figuring out what to do recognized the importance of keeping alive the fact that B'nai Israel Elizabeth existed. We were founded in 1872. So if you do the arithmetic, around now is would have been our 150th anniversary. And we were a major force in the Jewish community and in the non-Jewish community in Elizabeth. And we wanted that memory to be kept alive. And that's why we affiliated.
You know, it's a beautiful, painful experience, because what I'm doing is I'm sitting in the synagogue in my seat, so to speak, because everybody had their own place without a nameplate at all. And I'm looking around the synagogue, and I'm seeing faces of people, and it's a mixed bag. Let me tell you that my transportation all through high school was by bicycle, and it was not unusual for them to need a minyan for saying Kaddish for somebody, and that they would call me. And at that point in time, we lived on Reeve Circle. It could be all hours. It could be late at night. It could be very early in the morning. And I just put on whatever clothes I had. I got on my bicycle and I rode from there up to the synagogue, which was close to the center of Milburn. And I would be part of the minyan. And yes, there were times when people would be saying Kaddish after the death of a member of the family, and they would have a minyan called for the home, and I'll tell you of one home in just a moment. And again, they might be short. And I was, way out by Reeves Circle. Didn't matter. There was nothing in the world that could make me say no, or not now, or it just more than an obligation. It's a part of my life and my blood. Sure. So was I part of a million? Absolutely. And one of the places that I went to for Minion in the evening was at the home of Mr. Buncher. Now, that was the man that founded Buncher's Hardware. Okay. And
Yes.
when his wife died and he had to say Kaddish, I was there for the Minion also, just right after my bar mitzvah.
Now, our men were coming down here before we even signed up. They were coming down here for morning men. And we had working men, So they came down here because it was a morning meeting, and they'd say the prayers and everybody would go. And Juan Katz, who was a great guy, he said, "Was ist das? Where's the coffee? Where's the bagel?" He looked at him, said, "No, Elizabeth doesn't do that. We're going to do a men's club. We're going to have a morning minion." And they lived in Elizabeth. We had a kosher bakery down there still. It's all Spanish now down there. The whole thing, that whole Moran Spanish. All right. They started coffee, cream cheese, jam, whatever you want tea, you can have tea. And so the guys, yeah, come, bring more people. We'll have a full night and Rabbi Bayer was thrilled. And so then he said, "No, you can't go away. You see this cup over here? See this cup over here? You have to put $1 in there." "What do you mean $1? You come from Morning Minion. You think this coffee is free? You think Men's Club is going to pay for it? We have to cover the cost. $1. You come from Morning Minion, you have to put in $1." And that's the way the Morning Minion started here. And Sisterhood had quite a bit of money. So when we came here, our Sisterhood here got quite a bit of money. And we had no problem getting into Sisterhood. We were like one. We just molded into one. And it was just wonderful. And we worked in the kitchen. And coming here, we did things that we did in Elizabeth. We had shows and fashion shows, wonderful fashion shows we had here. Because we still had a lot of people that we knew who had individual shops. That's what they had in those days. And then Men's Club is another story I can tell you. When we came here, there was really no Men's Club. It was a name only. And you have a lot of men here, good workers, good men. And Men's Club was a name only. So Men's Club had a little money. My husband had been president, and then he became treasurer. All right. And he said, we have to start a Men's Club again. Such nice guys down there. We just have to get them. And they're interested, but they have no leadership. And they have no money. And we came here with cash and gave the synagogue outright $300,000. Now, we're talking about I think we came in say 95. All right. $300,000 was a lot of money. Plus, in between time, we got more money, you understand, but we got 300,000 of it. And they needed it here. The first thing they had to do was fix the roof, which was leaking all over the place. In fact, before it was fixed, one night we were here having services and it rained and it must have hit one of the fire alarms, and the fire alarm went off, and in the middle of the service the fire department came and there was a hose to it, and it was leaking into the synagogue back there.
The kids were never allowed to run through the kitchen. Brenda would shoo us out, and we definitely got in trouble. We would be hiding from Cantor Steele. And so we'd go into the kitchen because his office used to be next to the old kitchen. And we would try to get away by going through the kitchen. Oh, she would not have it.
And the reason we affiliated as a congregation rather than just dividing the proceeds is the committee that was in charge of figuring out what to do recognized the importance of keeping alive the fact that B'nai Israel Elizabeth existed. We were founded in 1872. So if you do the arithmetic, around now is would have been our 150th anniversary. And we were a major force in the Jewish community and in the non-Jewish community in Elizabeth. And we wanted that memory to be kept alive. And that's why we affiliated.
And Rabbi Beyer said to me during Simchat Torah, "Come on, bro, come." I said, "I can't." And my husband said, "Come on." So since then, I go up and do it.
So Rabbi
You-
Bear had to invite you
Yeah,
to do it.
they both, my son was at, I said, "Mom, he's up there, he'll okay it."
So that was your first Aliyah in Simchas Torah?
Many years ago, well, during Rabbi Beyer. Rabbi Beyer, I had a colon cancer. I think it was the first year that a short time he was here, he donated blood for me.
Wow,
So
beautiful.
I thought he was a very good rabbi and a very decent human being.
Right there. Who came in 1987-ish, somewhere right around there. So yeah. And his whole take was very different. He was really on his game, really on his game. He really taught. His classes were well attended. Everyone was always asking him to do more because we really enjoyed it.
The first time we went to Kentucky, we worked on, our group worked on a double wide trailer. I mean, the poverty down there is tremendous. There's not much work. As Rabbi Bear told us, rural poverty is different than urban poverty, because in rural poverty, they don't have the facilities available to them that the urban poor have. And we went down there, and I think it was they had already been going down a couple of years, and this was basically their only experience with Jews. And what they liked about us was that we did not proselytize. They had some church groups going through, and they were saying, "Oh, they were proselytizing." We did not. We just went and worked. Marvin Silbersher was the director, I think, of it. this was for Look Up and Live. It was a CBS program that ran on Sunday mornings. And they wanted to do it was a religious thing. So they wanted to do a bar mitzvah. So of course he went to the synagogue he knew. And Luther Adler, the actor, was the narrator. They asked Rabbi Grunwald to recommend a couple of boys to audition. It was my brother, Howard Barbarash, Eugene Lowinger, and I think his first name was Ricky Zane. They were the three boys that were auditioned, and my brother was the one who was chosen. They brought in all the TV cameras. It was done live. Unfortunately, I got cut out. So I'm not even in there. My parents are there. A number of members of the congregation. Everybody was invited to come and sit in the audience, as members of the congregation. So my brother had to learn another Maftir and Haftorah. And it was very exciting. They did have two kinescopes that they made, one for the synagogue and one for our family, and you had to have a special projector to show it. Both of them deteriorated. The one in the synagogue I found years later in storage under the stage. And the one at our house was in a dresser, and I opened it up, tried to look at it, it just crumbled. I worked for WCBS radio, so I figured, okay, I got it in, I'll tell them what I want. And they didn't have any of the kinescopes.
And that's where my father knew him, because my father was a wholesale grocer and sold things to him, to Dave Fern, who was one of the founders of our congregation. And Dave Fern was the one that said to my father, Moshe, you got to come here. It's a nice little town. You'll like it. We lived in Irvington. And my father says, are you kidding? My Rosie will cry. My Rosie will be lost. How can I come here? Don't worry. We'll make her comfortable. And that's how we came to Millburn, through Dave Fern. And Dave Fern was the first and only Jewish person to have a home in Short Hills. Right after the war, toward the end of the war and in the war, that's when Greenwood Drive opened up to Jewish people. Reeve Circle was not in the South Mountain Estates, and like Greenwood Drive was. And all the homes down there began to be owned by Jewish people. And we used to call it Greenberg Drive. This zusammen feeling of
Yes.
community and that kind of togetherness. My God, if we had more of that. You are part of making the tomorrow, and the tomorrows yet to come. They are not the Jewish expression, Yenim, somebody else. No, they are not alone, like you are not alone. Like I have brought to you some of the feelings of the history with which I was blessed. You can and will and should give that blessing to those who are with you in every meeting that you go to. You are not separate people. You are all together looking at the same project, problem, situation, aspiration. You are together. If you do that, all the other little problems are dissipated. There's no trouble with getting a minion. There's no trouble in having services. There's no trouble in raising money. You don't even think of it. It's an expansion of what it means to be more than just yourself.
Just come to the congregation and pray with us, because prayer, God listens to prayers, and we do need it. We need to be active teaching our children to be proud Jews so that they can live and understand when things go wrong, because life is not easy. It changes from being terrific, then it's not so terrific. I think by teaching your children the love of Judaism and being proud of being a Jew and helping the synagogue, what I learned from being a Jew in Germany, we practiced Judaism, we were a conservative shul. The children that did not have any religious background with their parents had much more mental problems than we did. We were not ashamed, or we didn't say, "What did I do? Why are you doing this to me?" So if you don't give the background and pride to your children, school cannot teach it. Homes have to teach it. It's important, the joy of being a Jew. It's not that you have to do, you want to do.